All right, hello everyone. I'm gonna try and see if I can beat solo elite waves for the first time. So I need to grab a Titan. Right now I'm just doing my ship boosts. So I can boost 2 ships with the Cerritos, and I can max fortify 2 ships as well. My best ship is the Sanctus, so I'm using my Cerritos. Let's click there real quick. I'm using my Cerritos to buff that last. So it has the buff for the longest time. Because it will run out, I think. So right now, like my third ship is the Corvus. It's not a great ship. Okay, there we go. We got max fortify. We got Cerritos boost. Now we're gonna pop the Corvus in, and then we're gonna start the run. It's also good to hide your UI. To avoid misclicks. Of course, unfortunately, it doesn't hide everything. I have these 3 ships bound to my mouse, so I can control them easier. I also have Kirshara active. So I can queue things, but you just gotta be careful with it a little bit. Just checking the volume a little bit. Okay. This is tricky. This part is tricky. I gotta be on top of it. There's 3 ships of each type. I mean, a lot of what is required to beat these just has to do with your things that you do outside, like what tier are your ships, what tier are your officers, what tier are your artifacts, what things do you have active on your fleet commanders, and how high are they? Make a huge difference. Um, if you have all that like at an adequate level, you can still screw up, but like if you don't have all that stuff at an adequate level, there's no amount of skill that's going to get you to beat these. So that being said, I think a lot of people don't optimize what they have well enough. Like there's a lot of people who are capable of doing these but aren't doing them because they take something suboptimal and then it doesn't work and they just assume they're too weak. You need enough impulse to be able to get to everything in time, and then beyond that, it's like any extra impulse is a waste. So if you have FC Kirk and FC Lorca with their impulse speed, you should be able to catch everything. That was wave 3. Wave 4 is the first wave that has any like real difficult hostiles. Now I think my Corvus can still kill these 55s, but I gotta. It used to be I had to use Lorca's Fist in this wave to kill the 50s. At a certain point, I was able to not have to do that. And I don't even know. I should set my Sanctus here first, actually, because if something fails with the, I don't know if the Corvus can kill these. If something get failed with kills the Corvus, I'm gonna need to use the Sanctus to get there. Corvus killed 1, but it will probably fail on the 2nd. But I think my Crozier can finish it. So I'm gonna use my Crozier. Oh no, Corvus did it. Good job, Corvus. You make it to round 5. That's pretty huge. I think okay. I'm gonna use the Crozier to kill the extra 50. And then use Lorca's Fist. kill as many of the 55s as I can. Gonna use the Corvus to delay one of these ships, buy time for my Sanctus. I don't think the Crozier can kill these. Oh, it can. Okay, so I may have messed up the execution slightly, but we still survive with 1 health. And that's how you do elite solo waves. I'll show my crews and we'll look at the combat logs here in a second. Because this is the actual hard part, right? It's not the it's the prep. It's not the clicking. That's the hard part. I mean, the clicking isn't trivial either. Like knowing where everything is helps. So I could have had more whole health. And this is why I was not too keen on getting the extra wave defense hull health. Because I felt like I would not be able to do it. And then once I can do it, I can do it really well. I didn't think there was going to be a lot of situations where I would fail with 3 but win with 5 HP, you know? I'm repairing so I can show my crews. So you want to use your 3 best ships. And usually the best way to know what your 3 best ships are is to just look at their damage per round. Like other stats matter as well. But like if you want to know, so for me, I have a tier 10 Crozier, a tier 11 Sanctus, and a tier 10 Corvus, right? So obviously the Sanctus is my strongest ship, and then the Crozier. But the third slot, like I don't know, should I be using a cube? Should I be using a protector? Like if you look at the strength numbers, they're all the same, but the strength number is always misleading, right? It's just a formula based on attack, defense, and health. What's a lot more indicative usually is this attack number. So this is 120, well rather the damage per round number. This is 110 million damage per round. The protector is like less than half of it, so definitely not the protector. And then the cube is actually slightly more damage per round, right? But the cube has like it's the wrong ship type for what I want for most of it, right? And then the cube has some issues where it like sometimes doesn't show up where it's supposed to. Generally, there's a lot of research that affects faction ships that doesn't affect non-faction ships. So even though like this is pretty close, like you could argue the cube is better, I still go with the Corvus here because it has the right ship type, and then it has all that faction research as well. So it's like you should consider this a little higher than what you see. You request a refund for what, Juggle? Hey, how's it going? Let me wrap up this video and then we can talk. So let's take a look at a combat log. So this is the Sanctus against a 55 Syndicate Reaver. Now I popped Lorca's Fist to give me a lot of extra damage. So we'll also take a look at the fight against the 50s where I didn't have Lorca's Fist, right? We're looking at damage. So I'm using Strange New Worlds Pike because I am using Giorgio anyway, and because I am using like I'm like it's probably surprising to see someone use this as on their best ship, but I'm using Chrono Deflector. Chrono Deflector increases your shield repair at the start of the battle by 30%. So that means at the end of each round, you get 30% of your shield back, right? So that plus Pike, like Pike is making, so your normal shield mitigation is 80%. Pike is taking that to 89%. And then I have below deck, I have Carol at 7%. So as soon as I take one hit, I'm at 96%. If I take a second hit in a round, then I go to 100% of damage goes to shield. And that is usually a problem if your shields are going to run out, but I'm regenerating my shields through both having morale. So I have a 100% chance to give morale from David Kim, which if you combine that with, if you keep in mind that there's Star Path research for this, right here, morale shield HP. So I have 6.5% shield health regen here, and there might be some additional research somewhere else that gives you shield regen. So there's 30% from the Chrono Deflector. There's 6.5% from Harry Kim, and if there's like Explork favors or something that gives you shield regen. Either way, directing a lot of your damage to your shields is good in this setup for me, given that I also need like crews on other ships, right? So my strategy usually when killing Reavers is to kill them fast. And the reason you want to kill them fast is because every round they get more crit damage. They decrease your crit damage and they get more ISO damage and defense. Excuse me. So I really should not have queued this song yet. Sorry, it's distracting. YouTube won't even know what I'm talking about because the music won't be in the YouTube video. Okay. Okay. So if you look at the damage we did here, we're doing 1.5 billion crit, and this is much lower than I normally do. Like against a regular hostile, I'll be doing 3.5 billion, even without Lorca. So this is round one. We're doing 1.5 billion, 1.7, 1. Like goes to like 1.9 billion at most, right? But then look at round two, it's 1.6, 1.7, and you look at round three, it's 1.5. I do have FC Con increasing my crit damage every time I hit. I recently put a bunch of skill points into that. So you would expect my crit damage to go up, but it's actually going down slightly. Now, before I had this a bunch of points in Con, it was actually going down significantly. But this is kind of negating a lot of that. When you land a critical hit on non-Armada hostiles, increase your crit damage for 3 rounds by 25%. So you hit like twice in round one, you're getting 50% crit damage. But like, and then by round three, you should have an extra 150, 250% extra crit damage, but you don't because they reduce your crit damage. So again, my strategy is to kill them quickly. And the other reason for that is I have Metreon Cascade. So you see a lot of people run Mazriad Vale or Hugh or NT Riker on their main ship. I don't, because I try to keep, I know I can keep fights to 3 rounds. And I get an extra 30% crit chance for the first 3 rounds. That combined with like the 20% crit you get from Lorca and when your enemy has a status, I believe is what it is. Yeah, you get 20% crit chance from Lorca, and then FC Con also gives you crit chance. This is something I got today, right before we started. 15%. Like, you just don't need Hugh or Mazriad Veil, like, or Anti-Riker. You just have 100% crit, right? If we look at the combat log against Syndicate Reaver here, every single hit is a crit. So I have 10 shots in round 1, all crits. 4 shots in round 2, all crits. 3 shots in round 3, all crits. And a crit does, like, if a non-crit would hit for like 300 million. Okay, so a crit does like 10 times as much damage almost against most hostiles. So that's one thing. The other thing is these hostiles have Apex Barrier, right? Increase isolated. Where's their Apex Barrier? Increases all piercing stats, weapon damage, and Apex Barrier. So you can't see that in the ship stats when you look at their piercing, for example, or isolatic damage. But the ability increases it, so it ends up happening. So if we look here, they do like 100k normal damage, and then 100 million normal damage, and then 2 billion isolatic. So the other thing that's really helpful is having a max Joachim. Right, so down below deck on my Sanctus I have Joachim, which gives me 500% isolatic defense. The big Reaver fights were 3 rounds, Ryan. So when below deck, increases your isolatic defense by 500%. Against everything. Against hostiles. Oh, sorry. Not against everything. Against hostiles and players. So not against our Krenim Armadas or whatever. But they do work against hostiles and players. So normally I have, just from research and artifacts, my isolatic defense is 890%. Which means I take like 1/9 of the damage or whatever, but then I'm adding another 500% from Joachim. Or maybe not. Because this ship says 285%. This ship says 890%. So maybe this is already reflecting the Joachim. Yeah, it looks like it. Even though it says against hostiles and players, it seems to be Joachim's bonus is showing up here. Because I don't have another source of... I mean, I have Pelia. She's 100%. But it's exactly 600% more in the stat sheet. So it's very odd to me that this says against hostiles and players but then it shows up in the stat sheet, because the stat sheet is against everything. So that's, I don't know if that's a UI bug or a tooltip error or what. But you can see 285, 890. It says another 5% from somewhere as well. Not 5. Yeah, it's an extra 5. 285.5. 5% isolated defense is coming from somewhere, and I don't know where. Because this is 600. All right. So the rest of the crew. We got Lorca's Fist. Oh, sorry, Lorca. He's max. He has an 80% chance of applying hull breach at the start of the round. And then I have Morale below. Then I have Carol, like we talked about, for additional shield mitigation. And you can see the effect of that in the combat log here. So the first hit that I take, I'm taking 13 million hull damage. The second hit, I take 0 because it's a crit. Star Path research means that if the target has hull breach, they do 0 damage with their crits. The third hit, I take 5 million. So this was 2.2 billion. This is 1. So even though the hostile did like 3 times as much, or not 3 times, but like 300 million more damage, I end up taking a lot less hull. I went from 13 to 5, right? So less than half the hull damage. And that's because a lot more of the damage is going to shield. See, 143 million shield health damage. We got 116. So an extra 30 million was prevented between the first hit and the third hit just because of Carol below deck. Wrath of Khan Carol, right? So this would have been 35 million if not for the extra mitigation, which is huge. And then of course the last hit, which is like, as you can see, 1.7, 1.5, like that's a lot. Literally 0 hull damage. And then next round, again, it's back to because Carol's effect only lasts for that round. So again, the first hit we're taking 13 million, the second hit we're taking 5, and the third hit we're taking, well, this one is crit. Over here, we're taking 0 damage. And the other reason Carol's really good against these hostiles is because their first shot is 1, the second one is 1 shot, and then their last hit is where 3, like, so all of like these 3 together do the same damage as the last attack. But by the time the last attack rolls around, you're taking 0 hull damage. And you can see at the start of each round, I'm repairing, like here, I'm repairing 6 million hull health. But I should also see shield health repair. It's not showing in the log, but we know it's that the Chrono Deflector replenishes shields. So I'm not sure why it's not showing in the combat log, but neither is the shield repair from Harry Kim. So maybe that shield repair just doesn't show up in the log for some reason. Only hull repair shows up. This hull repair is just from favors. I'm not using pick or anything. When I use a shield mitigation crew, I don't really like running pick on that same ship. So that's how the fight's going with like the Sanctus. And you can see I'm killing a 55 Reaver without using almost any hull damage. So this guy could kill like 5 or 6 of them fairly easily. I also had used a different crew and killed some as well. Again, this is with Lorca's Fists and a bunch of research with Khan and Lorca. But let's take a look at this crew. This is probably the crew that you see more people use. Jean-Luc Picard, Blue Beverly, and Anorax. This is a very common hostile killing crew. Every time you get hit, Anorax gives you, in my case, 2600 Apex Barrier. It's like the higher tier he is, the better. And it's every hit. Oh, every weapon. So the Krenim hostiles attack you 4 times in the first round. So that means in round 2, you have an extra, 10,000 Apex Barrier, which literally doubles the effectiveness of your hull, right? So think of it as like you take half damage. And then down below, I have Masriad Veil, because this ship doesn't have a Chrono Deflector, so it needs to get more crit. And then I have Quasi. Because my bridge crew is a defensive crew, I wanted to put some Apex Shred down below. So this is 30% Apex Shred for me. I think it's 25% at level 5. And then Hull Breach, burning because it's a battleship. And then because it's a slow battleship, I gave it Alexander Dane. I found that my Sanctus was fast enough, and I wanted my Sanctus to be the best at combat. Whereas the other ships are there to like kill as many stuff, so the Sanctus doesn't have to do everything, and they just like battleships are just so slow. You might not even make it. Like this gives me a margin of error. It's not necessary, but it helps. My Dane also happens to be maxed, but like I said, it's not necessary. If you know where everything spawns and you do it right, you don't need any impulse speed, but it does make it a little bit more relaxed. As far as Forbidden Tech, the second best Forbidden Tech that I have for killing hostiles is the Agamus, Shield Piercing, Hostile Rewards. This is irrelevant, obviously. Crit damage and Isolytic damage. These are okay. And then for the Chaos Tech, I'm using Godsend, which gives it, again, more shred. Because as I said, I'm using a defensive crew, so I end up coupling it with some offensive Chaos and Forbidden Tech to and below deck to sort of round it out. So if we look at how the Crozier did against the Reavers, it lost all of its shields and half of its hull. Okay, so it can't really do this over and over again. This is against a Explorer, though. Just keep in mind, it's not the right ship type. It's because my Corvus was already dead at this point, and the Crozier was like filling in. But you can see that the same amount of damage coming in, we're taking 63 million hull health damage on the first hit because we don't have the extra shield mitigation, and yeah, we and the because it's an wait, no, this is actually a good triangle. My bad. Forget the triangle stuff I said. It's still doing a lot of damage, partly because we don't have nearly as much isolytic defense. See, of the 1.9 million, we're mitigating 1.4, right? Whereas over here, of the 1.9 million, we're mitigating 1.7, right? So only 200 million isolytic damage got past our mitigation here, compared to like 500. So the Crozier is taking 2.5 times as much isolytic damage, all because it doesn't have isolytic mitigation. So I might put Pelia on this ship next time instead of Dane and see how it does. But this is like the thing that's doing all the damage because it's 100 million, 1900 million, right? So like the vast majority, like 90% of the damage you take from these Reavers is isolytic. So isolytic defense is going to help you a ton. And then again, we see 46 million. But you'll see that as we take more and more hits, we take less and less hull damage. This is Anorax in action, right? So we're mitigating 300 million using Apex Barrier on the last hit. We're mitigating only 200 million from Apex Barrier, right? So 200 million, 350 million, right? So like this, an extra 150 million getting past Apex Barrier means 80% of that hits your shields, and then the remaining 20% goes to your hull. That means that ends up being 20 million per hit in the final weapon hit after Anorax's proc 3 times. But it's 16, like this is crazy, right? 263, 63 versus 73 and 17. So round 1 is like where you take the most damage with that kind of crew. Round 2, it's already less. It starts at 21 million. This is a crit, so it's a freebie. Every time the hostiles crit, you're happy because Star Path. And then we're down to like 12 million until our shields run out. Then we're taking a lot more damage. But still, like, the Crozier manages to kill everything in 3 rounds anyway. And the reason for that is because I've popped Lorca's Fist. Okay, so like right now I'm doing 2 million a hit. But that's with like the 10,000% weapon damage from Lorca's Fist. Do I have the Sleigh Bells refit? Good question. I believe I do, but let me check. It's a minor thing, but I believe it gives you Apex Shred, right? Yes, I do. But how do you see that it does? You got to go to the unlock more, which takes you here, which takes you here, where you can click on Sleigh Bells and see increase isolytic defense by 5%. But they don't have to be applied for them to work. They work on all your ships, right? Yeah, it didn't change this number. Applying it didn't change this number. That's my second crew. And then my third crew, I'm going to talk about it not because this is the crew you should use, but because I want to tell you how I chose. Like, not everybody's going to have every officer. Not everybody's going to have like every officer at the same tier. And so it's helpful I think, to talk about how I make these decisions so that you can then apply some of the same principles to your own crewing and see like how you want to do it. So you're saying I should pay for more defense route watch? Yeah, as far as I know, there's nothing that gives you isolate defense only for one round. But so I'm using Gorkin because Hull Breach is OP. As you saw, it makes them do 0 damage on crits and increases the damage of your crits by like by 1.5x. Hull Breach is the most powerful buff in the game, both defensive in this case and offensive. So I put it there. Obviously, it's not as good as Lorca or Balana, but he's the third best source of Hull Breach. So I'm going to put him on there. Maybe Kang might be better for these since he has a 100% chance. But then you have to use the whole Kang crew, and those other officers are terrible. So Gorkin is still the third best Hull Breach. And then we're this ship like gets my hue just because I felt like it needed the most help. And as you saw, it actually killed a 50 Reaver. And that's really important because it buys you time for your other ships to do what they need to do. So I'm using Laliari, which gives me 2,000 Apex Barrier here below deck. I mean, I could have used Savic. I think I set up these presets before I had Savic. Savic is good because it's 15% isolate Cascade. Isolate Cascade is the best way to increase your damage in the game. I'm not using it on the Sanctus because I was using Chapel, and Chapel's 40%. I could take Pelia off the Sanctus. In fact, I think that's what I'll do. Save it for my future presets. So take off Pelia, put in Savic. Now that I know I can kill the 55 Reavers without losing much haul. Question is, do I put... Probably should put Pelia here. But I'm not sure, right? Give this ship another 100% isolatic defense. So now it's at 385. The Sanctus is at 790. And then this guy can get... Neelix, I guess? Or Dane? There's not enough slots. Maybe when the ship is higher tier or when I replace it with a different ship, I'll use Dane. But I didn't feel like I needed it last time, so I'm gonna use these presets for my next solo elite wave. I also, like I said, I used Max Fortify and Cerritos. But yeah, so as far as how I crew, Hull Breach is the most important. And then mitigation, you want to have a source of mitigation, because and then in the case of these hostiles, you want to have isolatic defense. It just so happens I'm out of isolatic defense officers. I only have 2 of them, right? It's not even a checkbox here, but it's Joachim and it's Pelia against hostiles. That's it. Nothing else that I know of gives isolatic defense. So this ship just gets a bit of damage reduction, gets hull breach, and then Janeway is here not so much for the captain ability, but these guys, like, you could switch. This might be a better setup. Janeway is there for the cascade because more damage means you can kill stuff faster, and then they do less damage to you. So the best defense is a good offense, I firmly believe. Along the same notes, Seska gives you more crit damage each time you land a hit. And it lasts for 4 rounds. So this ends up stacking and being like 48% extra crit damage. It's something. Maybe there's a better setup. I don't know. But what matters the most in a solo elite wave, and in regular waves really, is your strongest ship. Because there's going to be some hostiles that you just can't kill with your other stuff. So having one ship be the best it can be is usually your best bet. So that's that. If you guys have any questions, please post it in the comments. Let me know. And if you have other topics you want to see me dive into, do like a deep dive, let me know as well. I'm happy to do those.